Hey y'all, it's Arwen, the professional joy seeker. And as you know, I've set myself a goal this year to become the Barbara Walters of YouTube. And to do that, I am interviewing anybody who says yes. Now, that does not mean that I'm just picking up anybody. Did it sound like that? No. This person has been requested. I wanted to interview him last year. I started asking him last year, and then my recording equipment went up in smoke. So it's been taking me a while, but it's been almost a year. It was March the 8th when you responded to me that you said you would do this. So thank you for your patience. Everybody welcome the Pagan Scholar.
Thank you so much, Arwen. Yeah, it has been a little while coming, but it's been worth the wait, I think. I'm excited about this. So yeah.
Well, now I saw one of your videos where you said you were a little nervous about having to chat with me, and we're going to hide your notes.
Well, okay, I am very, very like self-critical, and so like I'm nervous about like the majority of things in my life. But I've watched, I mean, I'm a fan of your channel also, and so I've watched a lot of the videos, and also I've been chatting a little bit with some of the other people who you've interviewed, and they're like, you guys, like, no, it's fine. Arwen is like the best person that you could start out interviewing with. So I'm at ease.
Well, good. I tend to tell people, because I've done paper interviews where I just send questions to people, but I tend to tell everybody that I'm not a gotcha interview. I don't like those. I don't like, so Travis, tell me about your secret baby child. Like, no.
Right.
But you're a Texas boy, right? I found y'all, all these YouTube pagans who were literally 3-4 hours from me when I live in Austin. Didn't find them till I moved to New Mexico.
Yes, ma'am. I am from Abilene, Texas. And if you don't know where that is, it's okay. You're not missing much. Abilene, Texas is covered in 3 inches of dust and 1 inch of despair. It's everybody says this about their state in Texas, or about their city in Texas, but legitimately Abilene is one of like the buckles of the Bible Belt of Texas. And so but yeah, so I'm from Abilene, and I spent a little bit of time in San Angelo, and then I moved up to the DFW area for college. So
very good. I actually, where I live, the closest big cities, they're like 2 minutes difference either way, Amarillo and Lubbock.
Yeah.
Abilene's about 4 hours from me.
Okay, yeah. I've been to Amarillo. Amarillo's, it's all right. And my sister lived in Lubbock for a little while too. So yeah, it's Texas is a big place.
And Lubbock actually now has a metaphysical store. So I'm hoping to go over there and teach some and do some workshops. So that's going to be fun, kind of witch up Lubbock. It'll be fun.
Absolutely.
Now, I know we've got viewers. Y'all, those of you who are viewing, please know that we don't have access to the comments because we're doing this in Google Hangouts. It live streams over to YouTube. We don't actually get to see your comments. So
right.
I apologize if you ask excellent questions, which I know you will. We'll compile them, and maybe I'll send them over to him so he can do a video and do a VR for you guys if we miss anything.
That might be pretty cool. Yeah.
And give you something like you don't have anything to talk about, right? He has a great channel. He's very educational. That's the scholar part of his name. But what I want to know, my first question is, why did you choose your YouTube name? What brought you to that?
Okay, so whenever I started my YouTube channel, I was still closer to my educational history than I am now. If you've watched the majority of my videos, you see a trend. I start out very, very, very scripted and academic, and like, this is what's going to happen. And now I'm much more kind of free flowing and sort of like, oh, whatever, who cares,
I that, and I've really enjoyed the evolution of your channel. It's been a lot of fun to watch. And that kind of leads me to a question that's not even written down. Oh no. where do you think you want to go with your channel? Where do you see yourself next year, maybe?
That is the thing that's been on my mind the most recently, because Pagan Scholar right now is kind of in a state of flux, because going back to the original question, I sort of started Pagan Scholar as an experiment, as a way to showcase my academic skills to grad schools. So I thought maybe I might be able to be like, hey, look at me, I'm being interdisciplinary, and I'm engaging media, and I'm engaging social atmospheres and all these different things, and I'm being academic about it. So check me out, grad schools, take me into your schools and give me a free ride. That didn't really happen because I mean, like, on me. I didn't apply myself as well as I could have to some grad schools, but without the validation of grad school, I've sort of really grown to love my YouTube channel and the people that I've like engaged with. Not that I didn't love it before, but I've really grown to just find it to be so validating in and of itself, that I get to discuss things about mysticism and paganism and God, and people think that I am worth listening to, and I've discovered so many interesting and magnificent perspectives on so many topics I would have never thought of. That, yeah, so it started out as this like plan to, I don't know, be unique and get into grad school, and it's morphed into this like kind of journey of like, who is Travis the Pagan Scholar and what do you want to do with it? And so in a year, I don't know, maybe I'll be doing more tarot things, maybe I'll be doing more, I don't know, it's a journey, and so that's what we're trying to figure out right now.
That's very cool. I love that you were doing it for the academic, because I think that's a really, the way media and social media and all of that is now, you really have to up your game to get to the right graduate schools. So poop on them for not seeing you yet.
Nah.
I waved my magic wand, grad schools go look at Travis.
Right, yeah, well, if I had it my way, if I had stuck with the graduate school path, I honestly would not have kind of broken free of that very kind of stuffy scholar side, and I would not have shown kind of my personal ideas of, and my I don't know, the personal vernacular that I've got going. And honestly, I mean, I know I'm not the most I'm not the biggest personality on YouTube, but I feel like that's helped people connect with me, because once I stopped being so academic and all these things, then people were like, oh, it's a real person, that's cool. And so, yeah.
I really like watching your videos. I've seen some where you do, you and I believe it's your partner?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that you guys are like do back and forth kind of stuff sometimes. And I really enjoy those, but I love your camera voice. I love how you come across. You're very approachable, even when you were in academic mode, even when I thought, oh my God, that's Professor Hall. You actually kind of physically resemble him. I don't know how tall you are. He was like 6'4" or something. He was incredibly long-legged.
Not that tall, but
you remind me very much of him, and the approach that he had, because he was real, okay, this is your history. You want to like it or you don't, you're here, let's deal with it. Very approachable and very, he didn't smack you on, ooh, that was loud, smack you on the head with stuff. So, and I didn't get to watch your Cthulhu short stories.
No, it's okay. That's totally the challenge of the academic, of dare I call myself a philosopher, but that's the challenge of philosophy, to pose the question, to ask it, and to explore the question, and then at the end of the conversation, will remain a mystery, for the question to still be that enticing epiphany moment where it's like, wow, that's exactly why I asked that question in the first place. You know, you can beat to death a question with facts and answers, and at the end of the day, once you've done that, you're not inspired anymore. All you have is an answer. but if you can answer a question or explore a question and promote more answers, then that's when philosophy has done its job right. And so that's what I've tried to do. That's what I maintain and like hope that I do. So yeah, that's my philosophy on philosophy, I guess. So yeah.
I like it. Now, let me ask you this. What's the first thing you can remember about witches in general? And I mean like the very first. How young were you? You go, oh, magic? What the heck?
So I grew up in a very Mormon household. And in the Mormon church, God is very present. Like the Holy Ghost, like I just ran my fingers through the Holy Ghost. So so it's not necessarily magic, but that otherworldliness, it's with you from day one. But my very first recognition of like this is an alternative perspective of power, which is what a witch is. It's an alternative idea other than the, I mean, we're not going to get into that, but anyways, that's a different video altogether. The Wizard of Oz actually was my very first, because, you know, Mormons don't allow a lot into their media, but the Wizard of Oz, it's pretty harmless. So I remember that. I remember watching like maybe it was ABC, I don't know, but there was a Merlin television series with Merlin and Queen Mab, and I don't remember who the actor was, but that was a very early memory as well. But my very first critical, like, engaging with magic, it's interesting. It wasn't Harry Potter. I mean, like, I did start to read Harry Potter, but it was actually my parents' reaction to reading Harry Potter. So my mother was vehemently against me reading Harry Potter because it glorified devil worship and witchcraft, rawr, you know. However, my father actually stood up for me, and he was just glad that I was reading. And he said, you know, well, what about Shakespeare? What about The Tempest?
Oh, wow.
What about Macbeth? You know? And so my father was actually my champion for me to explore, you know, different archetypes of witchcraft and things like that. So of witches and just being exposed to the idea that somebody can bend their own will, like bend their own fate to their will. And so, yeah.
Cool. I'm saying hi to the chat people real quick. So they know that I can't actually see them. That's very cool. I actually know maybe 3 other people who came to the pagan path from the Mormon religion. And they all had an interesting back, and all of them, this is interesting to me, and I didn't really put this together till just now. All of them have been very intellectual. They've been very mind curious about this stuff. So I don't know if that's something in the way that goes on in a Mormon household that the curiosity is really.
Well, I can see that. When you're Mormon, you are encouraged to read the scriptures every single night. With your family and by yourself. So that's group reading and then by yourself reading. So that develops critical skills. However, this idea that, like, even as a child, like, how do I put this? So you're encouraged to develop your own testimony. So to develop your own testimony, you have to say, this is why I have my own testimony, which is another exercise in critical thinking. So once you've done all of those things, it's like, well, for me, you know, being a gay man, once I realized that, like, my sexuality was not necessarily copacetic with the Mormon faith, as it was then. I don't know what their stance is on that now. It's probably still backward, but whatever. So yeah. I decided, like, I took everything that I knew, that God was present, that, you know, the Holy Spirit was around you and all this other stuff. And I went looking for a new God that would accept me. And I found that in Wicca. So Wicca was the first contemporary pagan practice that I like really critically dug my teeth into. So I would not be surprised that other Mormons kind of have the same thing. It's like you're built up into this idea that to intellectually defend your faith, but then something happens and you realize that faith is no longer copacetic. It no longer fits. And so you go looking for something else, and you find goddess.
Very, very cool. I had a intellectual break with the Episcopalian faith, which is what I came up in, because of a priest who said one thing to me and then one thing in the pulpit, and I didn't understand at that time that if you wanted to keep your job, even if you were a preacher or a priest, you still had to be politically acceptable to those people paying your bills. So it was a big for me. I was like, oh God, no, I'm gone. But it took me a while to find any kind of replacement, or not replacement, a different path to walk down, I guess.
No, absolutely. Yeah. One of the, because for a long time, I had a lot of Mormon guilt. I had a lot of, like, I remember going to church a few times after I had like clearly left the church. And just like leaving the church, just like tears running down my face, sobbing, because I felt like this is everything that I had been taught my whole life, you know? And emotional attachment. Nobody wants to abandon something they've worked for their whole life. But, you know, the gave me comfort in that I'm not bashing the Mormon faith. I'm not, because like what it does for some people, so long as it's not hurting anybody else, is exactly what should be done. Like it's a great faith if that is good for you. But yeah, I realized that the Mormon faith was constructed. It was a vehicle of power and authority and a way to systematically oppress some people and uplift others. And like when that finally dawned on me, I was like, I don't need to feel bad about leaving this. And that's when my faith and her faith, my explorations into contemporary paganism really took off. And that was in college. So
very, very interesting. And I love that you don't diminish or diss or bash your past faith. I can't do that with Episcopalianism either, because the Episcopal faith for little Arwen. So, you know, and it's the reason I like Wicca and all the trappings of ritual. It's absolutely tied to growing up as an Episcopal.
Catch me on the other side of a wine bottle, and I might say something mean about the Mormon Church, but so we'll just, yeah.
So that's kind of what I was going to ask. What brought you to the craft? Was that the second? I already asked the second question.
Well, my exploration into witchcraft specifically actually came through Christianity, believe it or not. So like not Mormon church, but I joined a youth group because I had a crush on a guy. Evan, if you're watching, you're beautiful still, but so yeah, I joined this Christian youth group, and the Christian youth leaders, they were like mystics. They were a husband and wife couple. They both had experience in the occult, but they happened to find Jesus, and Jesus was their patron person, you know. And but they still believed in a divine feminine, and they were inclusive. They were basically, that youth group was the youth group that took in all of the rejects from all of the other youth groups. Oh. And so it was a place for me to, I learned how to read tarot cards at a Christian youth Christmas party. So like it was this wonderful environment to really thrive and take off. And so yeah, that was my first introduction into the craft. However, whenever I went to college in San Angelo, I joined a coven. They don't call themselves a coven, but for all intents and purposes, they're a coven. And yeah, that's where I learned how to, well, that's where I learned the basics. Mm-hmm. Before I was reading on my own, But in a group setting, I learned. And it's interesting. I want to point out that when I was in San Angelo, I was a French major. I was studying language, so I was studying French and German at the same time. So my brain was constantly memorizing things and learning the structure of how language works. And so alongside that, I was also learning how Wicca works, how witchcraft worked. And I got my first degree in Wicca there. I did the Year in the Day ceremony. Mm-hmm. I transferred to DFW. I switched my major and my minor, philosophy. And when I did that, I quit memorizing things and I started really thinking about things very, very critically. And I had to kind of let go of some things that no longer served me in my faith. And I had to question my faith altogether. And I had to sort of find out what I was going to do with what was left and to navigate the world as I now understood it. And so my introduction into witchcraft and paganism has been like, there's been different eras of practice. So yeah, it's very long-winded. I'm very sorry, but
no, that's good. That's good. This is why I do these. I love learning about people. So I really go. Oh, somebody just said they had that same mug, but for their sign. I don't remember what sign they said. Scorpio, but I don't remember. Oh, we'll go back to it. So what's your favorite form of divination? I know you talk about tarot a lot. Is that your go-to vehicle, or do you have others that you love?
That is my primary vehicle of divination. I've invested a lot of attention into those metaphors, and it's a way of, I guess you could say I am intuitive whenever I read tarot, in that sometimes my readings deviate from the traditional card meanings. However, since I started doing tarot with the Line Strider Tarot, excuse me, I've had to kind of go back to the little white book and to be like, wait, what does this card mean? Because I've gotten so familiar with my own gnosis, my own interpretation of tarot, that I've sort of kind of like here's the path, and I've like gone off over here. So but yeah, I love tarot the most because it's understood in an academic way. I'm not knocking, like, tea reading or the zodiac or any other divinatory form or practice, but for me to go up to a philosophy professor or an English professor or any sort of professor, hey, check it out. I've got these tarot cards. They are symbols. And what are symbols? But those are communally understood manifestations of meaning. And we can interpret literary theory, and we can interpret hermeneutics, and we can bring into the fray linguistics and like all these things. Like tarot just opens itself up. It's so welcoming to academic thought, because there's so much history behind it. Whereas with other forms of divination, I'm less comfortable doing because it relies completely on the subjective experience. And while the subjective experience, the personal like wisdom of the person reading, I don't dismiss that at all. I don't discount that. However, the moment that you take that experience outside of the anecdotal, it becomes near impossible to have a critical conversation about, because the person can just immediately go back and say, well, this is my experience. So how dare you judge that? And so it's like, I'm not going to judge that. Mm-hmm. Instead, I'm just going to stick with my tarot cards. And so yeah.
You're an air sign, right?
I believe I need to figure out my rising sign, and I'm pretty sure it's an air sign, but my sun sign is Taurus, as the mug says.
Oh,
duh. Okay. And it's funny, I denied to the end of the world that I was not a Taurus, that like it did not fit my personality. And then my friend pointed out, Travis, your obstinance, the fact that you're so stubborn about not being a Taurus makes you a Taurus. So
my very best friend in the world, we've been friends since I think this is coming up on 40 years, is a Taurus. So I appreciate you Tauruses.
we like nice things, so we do things like that. Yeah. And apparently my moon sign, I'm not sure, but apparently that's an Aries, which actually does fit my temperament when I'm not on camera.
Your lucky husband, boyfriend?
Marshall is a Leo.
Leo. Wow.
We actually butt heads a lot because I'm the like, no, we do it this way, and he's like, but my way is no. But I mean, when we're not butting heads, we actually flourish, and we're a great team. So yeah.
And I remind people that it's not sun sign. Where when you look at astrology as a science, it's actually incredibly involved. It involves math and decans, and I don't do that. But you're like 12 different possibilities, and so there's a whole lot going on in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you this: have you ever done a working, a spell, anything that backfired on you or didn't bring you the results you wanted?
To answer that question, we kind of need to understand what a working or a spell is. So for me, if I ever do spell work, and I'm putting this in parentheses because I view spells and things like that much differently than other people. Whenever I do a spell, I perform a ritual. And this ritual, the main purpose, the intent, is to kind of like unlock something in my head to help me understand my situation that I'm looking at with a different perspective or a different vista, a different paradigm even. So if I am, let's see, jobs are always very easy to do spells over. So it's like, if I did a spell for a new job, I would perform a ritual and I would ask whatever cosmic idea that I'm engaging, be it or other unknown, unexplainable things. I would say, like, why am I uncomfortable with my current financial situation? And what am I doing to either make that situation worse or make it better? Am I actually going to go out tomorrow and put in more applications, or am I going to stay in and feel miserable? So it's like, after examining all of those different questions, it's sort of like I put all the onus back on me. However, to answer your original question, when I was a teenager, okay, I'm going to tell you the very first thing that I did. I was a contrite, just like emotionally wounded. I'm saying that like I'm rolling my eyes, but yeah. So it was first love, and it was heartbreak, and it was actually a curse.
Uh-oh.
I cursed this individual, and so that did backfire, because anytime I ever, like, this person like kept turning up in my life over and over and over and over again, for many years. And I realize now that because I put so much attention and so much focus and energy into being mad and holding this grudge in true Taurus form, against this person, I had actually kind of just like cursed myself. And so if I had not cursed them and they had turned up multiple times in my life, I wouldn't have even thought about it. But because I had, put so much attention and energy into doing that, anytime there was any possible speck of them ever showing up, I was immediately zeroed in and thinking about it. And so, yeah, I feel like we really, anything we put out into the universe, it's not, yes, the law of three, absolutely, but it's like, what are you asking of the universe?
Yeah.
You know, what are you actually putting out there, and like, why are you doing it? And so that's what I only comment that I can make on things that backfire.
Yeah, I just talked to somebody who talked about doing a love spell and then not being able to get rid of that person ever. So yeah, I get that. Um, well, you're in Texas
Yes,
and you're
ma'am.
in West Texas. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna have to ask you the next question. Red sauce or green sauce?
I thought, but okay. So the thing is, whenever I first heard you ask this question, I was like, well, I know what green sauce is, but what's red sauce? Is red sauce just like, have I not known about this whole time? And so I asked other people, and it's like, you know, no, red sauce, just like salsa and just hot sauce and stuff, right? That's red. Like, am I missing something? Is my
There's red chili and green chili here in New
Yeah, okay.
Mexico. And so that's when we say red sauce, green sauce, that's what we're asking. But I'm letting people interpret it the way they want because I just think it's funny.
Okay, no, totally. Then I go for red sauce because I've had green chili stuff before and it's good. I mean, I love hot sauce. I love hot food. But for some, I don't know. I guess my palate just prefers that hot fire instead of that kind of like, it's not cool. It's green. You know, that green fire. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very different flavors. And I actually, somebody, I don't remember who it was, told me they were Christmas. They were red and a green sauce. So, so here's what I want to know next. In your belief system, as you practice now, is there an afterlife?
I will have to defer to my poetry, actually. So Adrienne Rich has a beautiful poem that is called A Valediction Forbidding Mourning. It's a poem about loss and about sorrow. It's a poem about, there's some feminist elements as well. However, last lines is, those mountains in the distance may have meaning, but beyond that I could not say. So for me, if there is an afterlife, and like my heart like feels something whenever I think about that, but like I can't say anything beyond the fact there might be one. So like those mountains in the distance, that afterlife in the distance, it might have meaning, but beyond that I cannot say. And so I mean, like, I think as humans we crave, we really, you know, our human predicament, we only have this one shot, and so we consider other alternatives like reincarnation. I agree with that as well. That's a healthy way of looking at your experience of life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't speak with any authority on that, and so my practice has been anchored in the present. I won't live my present life if this is the only one that I've got. I might be wrong, but if this is the only one that I've got, I'm not going to live it waiting for an afterlife. I'm not going to treat my planet, my current physical body, like a bus stop for the next trip into the afterlife.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very smart. I think that that's a point a lot of us forget. And it comes from, to me, it comes from how we were raised and what our
Absolutely.
childhood faith was. So, because I was raised that hell was the absence of God.
Correct. Yes. I was raised that way as well. I was raised, um, okay, maybe I might bitch a little bit about my Mormon upbringing, but so yeah, I remember one time I was a teenager, so I was starting to move away. I was backsliding into the fires of hell already, and so but yeah, I was like, wait a minute, we can talk about God, we can talk about the devil, and we can talk about all these spooky things in church. Awesome, let's do it. And so I did, and I asked about outer darkness, And outer darkness in the Mormon church is, it's not even hell, it's not even punishment, it's the complete absence of God. And there's only like a couple of people that receive outer darkness, and they're the sons of perdition. And me being the goth 15-year-old that I was like, I'm a son of perdition. And so
Sounds like a great name for a band.
I know, right? And so I asked about that, and the church leader was like, well, you know what? We don't really talk about that. And I was like, come on, this is your one shot at like keeping me in the church, of keeping me interested. And anyways, sorry. But yes, outer darkness. Outer darkness is a term I'm familiar with. And it's, yeah, I think that we definitely, even though we try our best to say we're grown-ups, we have our own opinions, we have our own beliefs about the afterlife, our childhood, our human experience, it influences and it informs and it educates our current position. Who would we be in the present without the past? And so, yeah.
Very good. I like that. I think that those are things that we don't really always think about. And that's one of the reasons I ask what I think are deeper questions I hope it balances. Speaking of deeper questions, this one, you have to no thinking involved. You're going to a deserted island. You can take 5 pagan tools. What do you take?
Okay. My pagan tools would include a deck of tarot cards, because I would get bored, but also because it would be a way for me to like reconcile the fact that I was on a desert island. I want to say I would bring an athame just because I'm practical. However, I would instead bring like a chunk of obsidian, because obsidian can actually be as sharp as a scalpel. And so like you can use obsidian as a knife. So that's 2. My drum.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'm learning to drum. I'm not a drummer yet. However, I recently found a drum and I've fallen in love with it. Her name is Impa, and so
now,
it's
djembe, or what kind is she?
I can actually show you. I can go get it. It's like it's right there. So yeah.
Now let's talk about him while he's not here. Wait, no. Dang it, he's coming back. Oh yes.
This is I cannot remember the name of it, but it's not a djembe. It's very similar to it, but it's a different name because it's metal. And the edge of it, the lip, it's on the same plane as the drum. So you've got, but you've also got, so there's 3 different things that you can do to it. And you can, I don't know, it's fantastic. And I practice it when no one's home.
I love drumming. I have been to so many pagan festivals that the sound of a drum makes me just want to start moving and dancing. I'm not a drummer. I mean, I like to drum. I have it's called an udu. It's an African drum that's clay, and it has a hole here in there's a pipe, a top, and it's a really weird sound. But I had a djembe, and it was a little baby, beautiful clay djembe. Heights, cats, ceramics. Never a good combination.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Back in the 90s, and I still whine.
Okay, so that was 3. I can't. And then pen and paper. You know, ink that will never go out if that's a thing, and then a notebook that will never run out of empty paper. So yeah, that's what would keep me magically sane. That's what would keep me right with the Lord if I were on a deserted island. So, and
the paper and never ending paper and ink when I was thinking about it from mine, I thought I have to be able to write. You know, I'm a writer by nature. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's for me, I've tried to do other types of writing. I can do academic writing, but poetry has been the most consistent thing that I can write. And I'm rediscovering the joys of poetry. I've kind of left that alone for a while, but it's sort of waking up again inside me. And so, yeah, I agree, absolutely. Once you get bitten, you you never quit. So
Yeah, I would rather write than eat some days. So here's an easy question, she said mockingly. What what herbs are must-haves in your kitchen and your witchy room? Just give me 3 that do double duty for you.
Okay. Well, it's not an herb, but it's certainly magical. My coffee. um, I'm sorry. Like I need it to survive physically, and I need it to survive spiritually. So, however, in my coffee as well, I will put cinnamon, and I will also use clove. Clove is very
Oh,
important to me. I used to smoke, but I don't smoke anymore, and so humbly about that. But I'm good. I'm good. So, but I would use cinnamon and I would use clove in my coffee, each for my own personal like ideas back here of why they're important. Um, in my kitchen, Marshall actually does more of the cooking, but whenever I try my hand at cooking, I love green herbs. So I like dill and I like oregano and I like thyme. So you've got that very green-ish flavor, but really dig. Well, I also like mint and spearmint. Those cool flavors. But like I said, I love hot sauce and I love hot things. So whereas you've got green herbs and you've got cool herbs, I love cayenne and I love just all the different peppers. I love whenever I need that fiery kick, either in eating or in magical spell work, personal gnosis, those are the metaphors that I go to, so if I want something wholesome and green and earthy, things like that, I'll go for those herbs. If I want something clean and cool and cleansing, I'll go for like mint or spearmint or things like that. If I want something passionate and fiery, I'll go for those things that actually make you sweat.
very good. And you probably cook with your herbs in your witchy room really well, because the way you're talking about them shows you have a real intimate relationship with them, and I like that.
If not intimate, at least personal. It's like I understand how it works in here. Maybe I not articulate it so great, but I know what I'm doing. So
No, I get it. I absolutely get it. Now let's look and see what's the next one. Powdered or rolled incense?
right. I prefer stick incense. Again, the way that you've put it, it's like I'm a little bit unfamiliar with that, but I have used powdered incense before, and I've had great results with that. I just don't always have the tools to burn powdered incense, like to have the censer and the burner and the charcoal and things like that. The few times that I have had that, though, like really neat, interesting things have happened, like sparks have flown, and like just the was really, really good. So I appreciate both, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going to use stick incense. Like I've got Nadia's stick incense here on my altar right now. So yeah, that's what I use most of the time.
And for those of you watching, he referred to Nadia. Look up Lady Jane, Jayne's Bewitchery. That's Nadia. She makes amazing product. Really good stuff. Treat yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Her incense is to die for.
And she's a writer too. So I need to get her on here so we can talk about her book.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
I've been promising to do that, and I just, because of the whole YouTube Skype thing that went down with me, everybody got put on hold. So I need to get in touch. Let's see. How do you intentionally honor or care for your deity if you do that, if that's part of your practice?
I will. Okay. So sorry that I'm trying to think of the fastest way to answer this question. So to do that, we have to again ask, what is deity? I have a very like weird, complex relationship with deity as I understand it. Michael York, I believe, in pagan theology, put it beautifully in one way. He said, deity is considered a constellation of energy. So if we think of very, very stereotypical god, Zeus, we'll just go with Zeus. So Zeus's symbols like thunder and lightning and the eagle and those things, you know, those are pinpoints, those are symbols, idols actually that people could bow down to. However, whenever someone bows down to an idol, it's not that we're bowing down to this statue. We're not doing that. What we're doing is we're viewing the idol as a window through which we can see deity.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful.
So actually, that was Theodore Roszak in Where the Wasteland Ends. But so taking both of those philosophies together and making a new one. So the idea of the idol as a window through which one views deity, and deity being a constellation of energy, this idea of different symbols coming together to form our idea and understanding of whatever specific deity that we're talking about. That is how we can engage with deity. All of that said, whenever I engage with deity, for me, if deity is a personality, if it's a consciousness that has its own quirks and stuff like that, I'm sorry, this is kind of heartbreaking, but for me, deity is very, very far away, just because the language of God is near impossible to understand. I think it is impossible to understand based way. And so what we do is we create these constellations, we create these idols, these of understanding God. And when we engage with deity, it is slightly navel gazing. It is slightly kind of like looking at our own personal hubris. However, we are recognizing that there is something outside of ourselves that we need to petition, and that we're sort of begging to come into our lives and say, can you fix this? Or can you recognize me? Can you witness me? And so whenever I engage with deity, gather together as many of the these points in the constellation, these symbols, and I will my personal struggle. It's my personal life. So if I am one of the very I do it almost every day. Whenever I take a shower, my mirror fogs up, and I will draw symbols in the steam on my mirror to the particular deity that I'm engaging with, and I will kind of like meditate and dwell on those things. And it's really neat because the mirror is this metaphor in and of itself for its reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Myself in the different symbols of upon the mirror, I get to see myself as deity, but I also get to see deity watching me. And so that's sort of how I have that's one of the ways that I do it. I'll do other very much more simple things, like I'll read a poem. And poetry is a snapshot in time. It's an emotional portrait that freezes everything in a moment. And you get to kind of walk around and explore all of the different feelings and emotions of that moment. And so deity as being something that is so much greater and larger than ourselves, one of the best ways that we can explore that is to kind of wait, how about we just read a poem instead? And we kind of take what we can get and then chew on what we can handle instead of, biting off everything. And so, I don't know, I have a very, I am still figuring out my relationship with deity. So, but yeah, that's as much as I can give you, I suppose, in terms of my communion with deity. So
that's brilliant. That really is. It's very relatable, and I actually understand a lot of what you were saying. I've never actually asked myself that question, so I don't know how I'd answer. But
Okay, well, in your own time, in your own time.
Shut up! I'm not answering that question. Let's see. What do you do that brings you joy? What's something that just brings you joy every time it happens? Travis, not that.
No. Okay. I'm a really big nerd, just so you know, in case you didn't know. So, Zelda brings me joy. So
Awesome.
the video game, and it's been around since I was a child. It's been with me through thick and thin. I mean, like I could read Joseph Campbell, The Hero of a Thousand Faces, like the father of mythology and folklore, and I could be like, hey, check it out, Zelda. That's what. And so,
I teach people that the three little pigs, is a hero's journey.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's so applicable across the board with everything. So Zelda it's been a big part of my life. It is a big part of my life. And so that it does bring me joy. In fact, whenever Marshall and I will do something that the other doesn't really approve of, or we'll like roll our eyes at and be like, did you really need to buy that? Our standby defense is it brings me joy. So
well, do you see this dog picture up here, this right up here?
I've wondered about that. Yes.
Her name is Nayru, Nayru.
That's wonderful.
He was found running loose in Garland, Texas, actually. And when they brought the people who found her, they tell people when they bring them to rescue, do you have a name for this animal? And they'd had her a couple of days, and they named her Nayru.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Aw. Because that's one of the goddesses in Zelda. Yeah, so.
And people are going, what is Nayru in Zelda? If you don't know the Zelda game, Nayru is one of the goddesses, I believe.
Yes, she's the goddess of wisdom.
Well, that was a misnomer. Named after the goddess of mischief.
Okay, well, you got to be smart to get into trouble, so.
It speaks a born troublemaker, right? That is. So that's wonderful. Yay for the Nayru connection. Favorite meal?
I would say Penang curry. Penang curry, and when they ask me how spicy I want it, 1 to 5, I usually ask for a 6.
Oh.
But that's because most of the time people who say they want spicy food, they get it and then they don't want to handle it, and so they say it's too hot. So the 5, the spiciest it can be, is usually like a 3. So I'm like, no, really, I want a 5. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, white boy American wants a 5, sure. And so, but I'm like, no, I do this. It's something that I love. So, yeah, Penang curry with chicken. I love the lime, and I love the sweetgrass. What else? Yeah, I would have to say that's a pretty standard. Like, if I wouldn't want to eat it every day for the rest of my life, but it's certainly like it's my comfort food. It's like if I'm celebrating, I want to get some curry. If I'm having a bad day and I want to treat myself, I get some curry. And so, yeah, definitely.
Well, if you ever go to Austin, go to Garage Mahal. Apparently, they had to close down they had like an outdoor, but now they're just a food truck. Excellent. My friend who is from India took me there. Said it was very good. And Clay Pit, of course, in Austin is an excellent Indian place. But yeah,
wonderful. Absolutely.
I live in a desert town for food. We have like the most popular one here is the Cotton Patch, and it's a chain.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's
yeah. We moved to Lubbock. There's a Thai place in Lubbock called Bangkok that has the best Tom Yum Goong that I've ever had. And I will buy it and say, just put it in a box so I can take it back to New Mexico.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, it was just that like my dad actually made Well, kimchi isn't Thai food. Is kimchi Thai food? I can't remember.
Korean.
Oh, okay, it's Korean. Um, the Korean restaurant in Abilene where I grew up with my dad, they had both Thai food and Korean food. It was, yeah, anyways. But yeah, so again, that Christian youth group that like introduced me to like this weird like Christian mysticism, they shared a church with a Korean Christian group.
Mm-hmm.
And so for one of the lock-ins that we went to, they didn't know that the Korean service was also going to be there for some sort of dinner. And so me and my friend were wandering around this church and we stumble into the kitchen and there's like all of these Korean people and they're eating dinner, but they were so hospitable, they were so accommodating. Like, oh, would you like to try some of this food? And I knew what it was because it's like I've eaten like at the Korean restaurant that also served curry and stuff like that. So, but my dad also made kimchi, and so I was like, I was ready for it, and like, because kimchi can be pretty hot, you know. And so I just remember like my friend who is just like, I don't know, like at least a foot taller than me, bigger than me, takes a bite of kimchi and just like was not ready for it at all. And so like spicy food has like this it has a place inside me, inside my, yeah, it's like this is it's intimately tied to very wholesome memories for me. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I love that. Now, tell me a ghost story. If you have one in your repertoire of when you've interacted with a ghost, not necessarily the holy one. That's possible because I believe in that
Right.
energy myself very much. But what's a ghost story you can share with us? Funny, sad?
It's well, for me, ghost stories were I mean, the most like remarkable, like very specific like this is a ghost story type thing was one time like I heard my name whispered in front of a very spooky house on a farm that we had.
Oh, wow.
It was like the backstory was the guy that lived in the house. I think it was like maybe during the Depression, and he tried to kill himself by swallowing battery acid, and that didn't kill him, so he went out in the field and he shot himself. But the fact that I heard my name outside that house doesn't really correlate with anything in that ghost story, you know? So it's, and maybe it does, I don't know, but for me, that's not really a ghost story. The intimate, spooky, spiritual encounters that I've had, actually, my mom has more encounters with the spirit world than I do, and my mother is very much of the Mormon faith. But actually, okay, so this is a unique opportunity to talk about. So if this were 2-3 generations in the past, my mother would probably be considered touched or something like that. She would be considered to have some sort of like gift or maybe even a curse because she's narcoleptic.
Mm-hmm.
So for anybody who doesn't know, narcolepsy, it's a sleeping disorder. It makes you fall asleep very quickly, suddenly. And with medication, it negates that, but you still have very messed up sleep cycles. And so I don't have narcolepsy, but I've had cataplexies, and I've had old hag syndrome, which is where basically you wake up, but you still can't move.
Oh, yeah.
And so in some cultures, in some folklores, that's old hag syndrome, and that's a demon sitting on top of your chest. You're looking at it. Are you looking at it from a folklore perspective? Are you looking at it from a science perspective? And also, there is ground between the two. We can actually say like there is a bit of both because it is all about the subjective experience. So for me, my most terrifying ghost story was whenever I had this cataplexy, and it was in between a cataplexy and a waking dream. So basically, I was lying asleep, and I woke up, but I couldn't move, which in and of itself is terrifying. But then, whenever I finally could start moving, I woke up again. And then the same thing happened. And then I woke up again.
Oh God.
And so the most terrifying thing is, like, I went through an entire day, woken up, I'm like, okay, I'm awake. This isn't another dream. This isn't a cataplexy. Like, I'm awake. And then I woke up again. And like, whenever I finally did, like, literally actually wake up, like, I was shook for, like, I don't trust myself to fall asleep, like, because I don't know if I'm going to wake up. I don't know if I'm asleep. And so it was, yeah, that's my most, yeah, that's my most cohesive, like terrifying ghost story. So
Yeah. I've had an episode of that, not where I woke up and then woke up and then woke up, but where I woke up and was frozen and couldn't move and
yes,
things happening to me, and it was not fun.
no, it's not. It's a terrifying feeling because even when you are aware of what's happening, even when you're armed with science on your side, you're still feeling it, you're still experiencing it, and it's like, you think you're doing this, but you're doing this, and it's just, it's terrifying when your body betrays you, and yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
You feel like, because I think as humans, particularly Americans, we're given so much control over our bodies and our lives, how we say, how we move, and to have that stripped, no.
Absolutely. No, as I mean, as Western culture, but Americans very specifically, autonomy of the body is paramount. It's what makes us and sets us apart from other things. And so whenever that's suddenly gone, I mean, like, it's not a illogical idea to think that there might be a supernatural force, And so it's like, whatever experience you're having, if you are raised in a super religious home, then that very well might be a demon sitting on top of you. That very well might be a witch casting, a evil witch casting something on you, because at the end of the day, what are we but our experiences and our very own, very personal understanding of the world around us. And so, no, absolutely. I 100% concur.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. A couple of people in the chat also said they went through something similar. I hope y'all will come back after the video's up and leave comments about this, because once the video's done and posted to other people can see it, all the chat goes bye-bye. So the very last question, and I can't believe we've been at this almost exactly an hour. Thank you so much. What is your best advice if you're going to give somebody a one-shot, football coach kind of thing? What is your best advice to someone just starting on their path?
Keep reading. Never finish a book and think that you're done. For me, I picked up a couple of books, and they were kind of harmonious. They all agreed, and I thought, cool, I've got it. That's how you do the witchcraft, But there's so many different ways that you can do it. So for me, my best advice that I wish I had heard was never take anything as holy writ. You can always question an author on their validity, on their sources. Do they have sources? And so it's like, just always keep reading, keep exploring. No one is ever, we do have experts, but even those experts are still fallible. So always keep reading. And if something sounds bad, if something sounds off to you, then find out why you feel that way about it, but then continue to roll with that. It might be a personal distaste, and that might be something you need to get over. But also, it might be like your your gut feeling saying like, hey, this is bad, let's not do this. And that's something that you should listen to. So always keep reading. Never accept anybody as the end all be all, and like, including myself. Like, I sure the hell don't have anything figured out. I mean, like, I can ask questions, but like, what do I know? So yeah, it's perpetually a question of always learning more and never feeling like you've got it figured out. You can be comfortable with what you know, but always strive to know more.
Yeah, one of my personal mottos, way back before Seek Joy ever came into my world, was the day I stop learning is the day I start dying.
Absolutely, yeah.
And my students, when I had students, they knew that the worst answer they could give me was, because you told me so. Because I would tell them shit, and I actually told one of them that I believed in blood sacrifice and we were going to do that for the full moon. And she did not argue with me. It took her a little bit. She came back at me after, and we're really good friends still. So, hi, Luna, in case you're watching this. But she came back and said, I don't think I can do that. So, and I said, don't ever accept something just because somebody who is supposedly in a authority figure says so.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's how I almost went political, but to make it not political, but still relevant, that is the quietude of the masses is how people who have ill will towards others come into power. So yes, always question, always seek to know more, to understand more. You know, that is, for me, that is my goal for life, to understand, to learn. And so, I mean, other people have other goals, and I salute those goals, but for me, that's exactly what I'm all about. So
well, thank you so very much for joining me on my channel.
Absolutely.
Everybody, been the Pagan Scholar, who has his own channel. You'll see a link in the drop down box. If you're not subscribed to him, get the hints, hit the button, because his channel is awesome. He's got one of the channels that I can go back and rewatch stuff. I have a short audio attention span, which is funny when I do hour-long videos, right? But I do like 15 minutes and then I'll come back and watch another 15. So I'm wrecking everybody's YouTube stats all over the place. But please, I would love to have you back. I would love to discuss more things with you. You have such a depth for a young person. And I can say that. I'm 56 and got a month, actually, to the day. So I can call you young because I think you're maybe in the mid-range 20s is my guess.
Mid to late 20s. So yes.
My son is 28. My stepson, he lives down in San Antonio.
Okay.
You and he have a couple of things in common. So I need to see him. In fact, I miss my boy. But thank you very much. I'm going to say good night. I'm going to remind everybody, seek joy, y'all. And how do you say goodbye?
Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.